The first problem, you have x minus 3 times 4x plus 7. I really prefer that you write this out as so. Okay, you have x multiplied by 4x, and x is multiplied by 7, right? Because x is in this group, it multiplies everything that's in this group. So we have x times 4x plus x times 7. And this is a step that I don't always see people writing out. I recommend that you write out this step exactly the way you see me doing it, because it keeps reminding you of what you do. And when you do the homework, write it out this way. Doesn't take that long. And then you have a minus 3 that multiplies both of these. You have the minus 3 times 4x minus 3 times 7. Now that's called the distributive law. Everything in here multiplies everything in here. Here we write it out. And then x times 4x is 4x squared. 7 times x is 7x minus 12x minus 21. And these are all straightforward. 3 times 4 is 12, so we've got 12x, and it's a minus. Make sure you get all the minus signs in there. Okay. And then 7x minus 12x. We have 7 x's, and we subtract 12 x's. Whatever x is, we subtract 7 of them, 12 of them from 7, which leaves us negative 5 of them. Okay. And we can't do anything with 4x squared plus 7x. The exponents are different. If we were multiplying, we could add the exponents, but this is an addition. It's not a multiplication. Okay. So common errors I see, people trying to add 4x squared to 7x and get 11x cubed or something like that. Okay. And it's completely wrong. Okay. It's completely something you can't do. Not they're evil or stupid. If you do it, because everybody does evil and stupid things, you see me do it all the time. Okay. Now, don't do the evil things, you know. When you're learning, you do things that later on would be kind of bad if you do. Okay. When you're doing it, you know, pretty much anything's game, but you've got to sort it out. All right. Now, what I want you to do is take this one again. And imitate what I did here in this second step. Okay. Follow what I just gave you. Okay, well, again, there is another intermediate step that you can take. Okay. And I probably should have written it like this. You got x squared times x squared plus 3x minus 4 plus 2x times x squared plus 3x minus 4 plus 3 times x squared plus 3x minus 4. Okay, that helps you keep track. You can actually just do this times this times this, and so forth, like I did here. But up here, it really would have been better if I would have written x times 4x plus 7 minus 3 times 4x plus 7, just to indicate that x multiplies the whole thing, and so does negative 3. So I've written it out that way here. In the next step, I'm going to write x squared times x squared plus x squared times 3x plus x squared times negative 4 okay? I'm using a dot here and here because there's no sign in front of the x squared or the 3x. If I put an x dot -4 without a parenthesis around the -4, it's very confusing. Not sure what to do next, okay? So we indicate the multiplication on the -4 by the parentheses. And then it's plus 2x times x squared, 2x times 3x, and 2x times -4. And then plus 3 times x squared, plus 3 times 3x, plus 3 times -4. Now, you don't have to write it out like this if you got plenty of room across your paper, but this actually kind of has an advantage because you can see that I've got my x squared here, my 3x here, and my -4 here. I've got my x squared, my 3x, and my -4. Got my x squared, my 3x, and my -4. So I've got all of these. You see what I'm talking about? My x squared and my 3x, my -4, they appear here. Here's the x squared, here's the x squared, here's the x squared. Here's the 3x, here's the 3x, here's the 3x. Here's the -4, here's the -4, here's the -4. Then I've got x squared multiplied by each of those. Well, there's that x squared, there's that one, and there's that one. And then there's a 2x in front of each of these. And then there's a 3 in front of each of these. So if you kind of have it like this, it's kind of easy to check that you have everything. Then you just multiply it out. That gives you x to the 4th plus 3x cubed plus, I'm not sure where I got 3x cubed. I don't know what I was looking at. Oh yeah, there it is. One disadvantage of putting these in 3 lines is I can catch the wrong thing. And my eye seems to be prone to do that lately. Okay, we have the x squared times the 3x, which is 3x squared. X squared times -4 is -4x. And we have 2x times x squared. That's 2x cubed. 2x times 3x. 2 times 3 is 6. X times x is x squared. 2x times -4 is -8x. And then 3 times x squared. 3 times 3x is 9x. And then that's -12. Then we can put our terms together. Just have one x to the 4th term, a 3x cubed and a 2x cubed gives us 5x cubed, -4x, I'm sorry, x squared, 6x squared and 3x squared is 9x squared. -4x and -8x is -12x, and add 9x, that gives you -3x. And then we just have -12. Now, I'm not sure the camera is going to pick up that part of the board, so I'll just write the expression out here again. X to the 4th plus 5x plus 9x squared minus 3x minus 12. Now you could check this. You could let x equal 2 and evaluate this expression and this expression. And then evaluate this expression for x equals 2 and see if it's correct. Notice I didn't put the cube on that x, but there it is now. And once more, I emphasize writing out every step you see me write out is probably a really good idea on the homework. You learn as much as you would if I gave you twice as many problems to work out by whatever method you choose to work it out, okay? You learn twice as much, at least, if you write things out and you think about the rules and you learn the rules by writing out all the steps and thinking about what the rule is. Okay. Well, everybody that got to the homework seems to have done well on it. So we're going to move on. Okay, we have a plus b times a plus b. That's going to be a multiplied by a plus b and b multiplied by a plus b. That's going to be a times a plus a times b plus b times a plus b times b, which is a squared plus ab. Now, b times a is the same as a times b, so I'm going to write this as ab. So it's obvious that this is the same thing this is. Okay, if I multiply 2 times 3, I get the same thing. If I multiply 3 times 2, so the order of multiplication doesn't matter. Multiplication is what we say is commutative. And then finally, b times b is b squared. So we can see that we have a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. Now go ahead and work the second one if you haven't already. Okay, a minus b multiplied by a plus b would be a times a plus b minus b times a plus b, which is a times a plus a times b minus b times a minus b times b. A times a is a squared. A times b is ab. Now b times a is out of alphabetical order. And we can always write multiplications in any order we want. So kind of by default, we try to put them in alphabetical order. I don't want to put these in alphabetical order because that's the order in which they appear. So you can easily match this up with this. But now that we've got this minus b times a, and we don't have to match it up with anything, we're going to make that a minus a times b. And then minus b times b is minus b squared. Now, anybody see a way that can be simplified? What's AB minus AB? You show me with your fingers. 0. Subtract something from itself, it's 0. So AB's give us 0. So we write a squared plus 0 minus b squared, which is just a squared minus b squared. Okay. So that's two formulas that are kind of important. These are called special products. And to summarize, I'll just kind of write it here in the middle of the board. if I square A plus B, this is what I get. Now, I haven't really said anything up here about squaring A plus B, have I? But what I do, I multiplied A plus B times A plus B. When you multiply something by itself, you're squaring it. So I could, up at the top here, say, okay, that's A plus B squared, which we then write as A plus B times A plus B. Okay? And then A minus B times A plus B is just A squared minus B squared. Now we also have one for A plus B cubed. But I'm not going to burden you with that. I want you to just understand these two for right now. That'll be good enough. And if you need the A plus B cubed, which doesn't get used all that much, you can figure it out then, because all you got to do is multiply this by another A plus B. It's no harder than what you did here. Okay. So I'll write this here. Just say there are formulas for A plus B cubed and A minus B cubed. And you can always figure them out. And if you see them in the future, you should be able to recognize what's going on and understand, yeah, I could do that myself. We can apply these formulas. So I guess I'm going to write them again. And give myself a little bit more room here. Okay, so we've just proven that A plus B squared is this. And then A minus B times A plus B is A squared minus B squared. So tell me, what's 4x plus 3y quantity squared? Well, I'm going to tell you what that equals. It equals A squared plus 2AB plus B squared, as long as A and B stand for the right things. Okay. In other words, I'm just quoting this formula. This is a square, so I can automatically write this out. Then I got to figure out what A is and what B is. Well, A is one of the things that's added. B is the other thing that's added inside that square, right? So what do you think A ought to equal? Let's just see if we can. Okay, so what did I do here? I said this has to equal this as long as A equals 4x and B equals 3y, right? Okay. Can everybody write out that step? Write out this equals fill in the blanks. Write out this statement. Tell me what A and B are. My word's down for Now you can multiply that on. 2 times 2 is 4 times 25, right? Also, there's no square in these. Well, you see square there. See square there. So you got the right thing, you've identified the right stuff. Get rid of those squares you haven't really used them yet. Okay? And multiply them. All right. Three of this. Yeah, you would have.
Well, it's gonna go. If it's just counting, I wouldn't worry about
Yeah,
it.
go, yeah,
I'm gonna
they
do
scatter
that.
fast.
Yes, they do. I'll see you Monday.
All right. It's all multiplication. You don't just understand it. Oh, they also, you're doing, so I remember being tempted by this too. You multiplying the 2 by the 2 to get 4x, right? Yeah. And then you multiplying the 2 by the -5. Well, we've already multiplied the 2 by the 3. Okay. So that's just going to be -5y. And parentheses around that because this is all multiplication, no addition. Okay. Take practice. So be it. Okay. So we're wanting to write this down like so, as long as A equals what and B equals what, because most of the class didn't identify A and B. Some did, but nobody got through the whole thing without messing up something, because it's the first time we've done it. Okay, so let's be sure we understand all the details. Okay, well, the logic here is that this is equal to A plus B squared. Okay. Let me make it a little more obvious, because there is a step of reasoning in there that I explained, but could have been a little more basic about that. So let me modify what I'm telling you to do. Let's first of all recognize that this is one of these. This equals A plus B squared. A equals 2x and B equals -5y. Okay. Now, I could have written this as A squared plus 2AB plus B squared. Okay. Did I say so? I write it again. You're not gonna want to write it twice, but you need to write it twice. If you're gonna totally follow the logic. If you've got another way of doing the equivalent logic in detail, do it. That's fine. Show me what you're doing. Okay? Because I'm going to ask you to do something like this in class next time. It's going to be your quiz. And I'm going to want to see all the words. Or maybe I'll give you a quiz with 4 of them. And so you've only got to do the first one as long as you use all the words. If you don't use all the words, you still have to show me all the steps, but do all 4 of them. Okay? And if you do all 4 of them as quick as somebody could do it with words on the first one, then I feel like, yeah, you're doing pretty good. Okay? But we want to see this. All right. Well, so 2x minus 5y squared equals 2x squared plus 2 times 2x times negative 5y plus negative 5y squared. Okay. Now, to square 2x, I'm going to use all the rules. That equals 2 squared times x squared. That's rules of exponents, which y'all did real well with a week ago. Okay? Plus, now this is just a string of multiplications. I could write this as 2 times 2 times negative 5 times x times y. I'll even use a dot there. It's not going to hurt anything. Okay? Because all these things are multiplied together. Now, one error that I saw was somebody wanted to do like 4x, because 2 times 2x is 4x, and 2 times negative 5y is negative 10y. So they want to have 4x minus 10y. Well, that's a good eye. You have a good eye for the distributive law. But there's no distributive law here. There's no addition between these. We're not multiplying the 2 by something plus something. So it's not an instance of the distributive law. Okay, that anyhow, that's going to be, I'll just sneak over here and use just a little of this. Yeah, I don't have room. Negative 5y squared is negative 5 squared times y squared. Okay. Now that is maybe a little confusing because it looks like this distributes over the multiplication, right? Well, actually it does, but that's not multiplication distributing over addition. Multiplication distributes over addition. If you like, exponentiation distributes over multiplication and division. You got to be careful about that. Another thing is make sure you're checking your work. Work these out, check your answer before you put it into open math. That way, if your answer doesn't check out, you know that you did something wrong. You go back and look for some of these pitfalls, because there are a bunch of them. You see me make little errors here and there. Okay. You got to keep your attention focused in order to get these right, because a lot of things look like something else. Got to know what the rules are. Okay, well, anyhow, 2 times 2 is 4 times negative 5 is negative 20. times xy. I didn't really need the parentheses. Well, yeah, I do, because it's plus a negative 20. And then negative 5 squared is 25. And that's y squared. So we get 4x squared minus 20xy plus 25y squared. Now, how do you check this? I recommend checking it. I say using the distributive law, and when I say that, I mean using the distributive law of multiplication over addition, not of exponentiation over multiplication. I don't even really talk about that. Okay, I just did, but okay, you got 2x minus 5y times 2x minus 5y equals 2x times 2x minus 5y minus 5y times 2x minus 5y equals 2x times 2x minus 2x times 5y minus 5y times 2x. Notice I wrote a y there instead of x. Like I say, be careful. A little clerical error like that will drive you nuts. That's why I'm the way I am. Okay, now, okay, get 5y times 2x. 5y times 2x, that's negative. And then negative 5y times negative 5y. That's 4x squared minus 10xy minus 10xy, because 5y times 2x, negative 5 times 2 is negative 10. Y times x is the same as x times y. And it's plus 25y squared. And there's what we get from the distributive law. It matches. So chances are very likely, chances are very great that we've done it right. Now, if you happen to make the same sign error over here and somehow make a sign error on the same term over here, you could get these two agreeably be wrong. So, but if you're honest about it and forget about what you did here while you do this, don't think of any connections. And usually I like you to think about connections. But if you're doing a check, don't think about how this might be connected to this. Just use steps of the distributive law. Why does this work? Because of what we did before when we wrote a plus b times a plus b and found that it was equal to a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. That works no matter what a is and no matter what b is. Okay? Well, I want to leave that where it's visible. That's a little bit hard to do. I think it's safe to leave it there. Now remember, I'm not sure that that's safe. So if things start flying around in this room, you just get under the tables like a tornado, okay? That thing could slide, who knows what else might happen. And we want to avoid injury if we can. But you can't live without risks. We're going to take a little risk in this. Okay. Now, just because you can't live without risk doesn't mean you want to take them unnecessarily. So I'll put that up there. We got a little bit of friction now. Okay. What we're going to do, I'm going to ask you to do this one. Now, the formula you're gonna use is the second one, A minus B times A plus B. Now, this happens to be A plus B times A minus B, but it's still going to be the same because it doesn't matter in what order we multiply these. So you're still going to be able to say, well, this is equal to A squared minus B squared. But imitate what I wrote here as best you can. It shows you the logic, it reinforces the logic, and you're more likely to remember it when you need it. Okay, now, what you want to write out, I want to make sure everybody is writing out what they should. You recognize this as being an instance of A minus B times A plus B, one of the two formulas we have here and here. We should recognize it as being this. Although the minus is on this one, the plus is on this one, it doesn't matter. This could be A plus B times A minus B. It would have the same product because the order of multiplication doesn't matter. Okay, well, so we write this as A plus B times A minus B for A equals what? Well, A plus B, there's a plus, 3Q. A has to be 3Q because the 3Q appears here and it appears here. So it matches up with this A and it matches up with this A. And then it's going to be B equals what? Well, B is 5P. And minus B would be negative 5P, so it all checks out. Three Q plus 5B has to equal A squared minus B squared, because A plus B times A minus B is A squared minus B squared. That's going to be 3Q squared minus 5P squared. And then by the rules for exponents, that's 3 squared times Q squared minus 5 squared times P squared. Okay, now the minus doesn't get squared. The minus is just plain minus. Square only applies to the 5P, so don't think you're going to have a plus here because you got a square over there. The square does not apply to that minus. This gives you then 9Q squared minus 25P squared. And there it is. Now this could be verified. You could do 3Q plus 5P times 3Q minus 5P equals 3Q times 3Q minus 5P plus 5P times 3Q minus 5P, etc. And that should come out 9Q squared minus 25P squared. If it doesn't, it means you either made a mistake up here, in my case, I made a mistake, or I made a mistake in expanding this thing. And of course, there are a couple more steps to the expansion that you can fill in if you wish. You should probably fill those in. Okay, well, good luck. I think you'll find the assignment to be pretty straightforward. But make sure you do a good job on it and write out everything.